I don't know, I'll give a quick introduction, I guess. So this is Dr. Carl Cranmer, professor at Westchester University, a good friend of mine, and I'm happy and thankful that you're here to listen to these three guys and as they pursue their journey of taking music quite seriously amongst the three of them. So be as hard and mean as you want to be.
Okay. All right. So I have the program. I guess Avi, are you first?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
great. I will just sit here. And here we go. very nice. This is the second time I've heard you play this, so a lot of really nice things in here. I do have a lot to say though. I think one of the things I really enjoy about your playing is just your sense of timing and rubato. And I think that doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. I'm not sure if it came naturally to you, but it seems like you have an affinity for the rubato of Chopin, which is great. Where I think I'd like to work with you today is just on tone production and perhaps a little bit of pedaling ideas for you here. I think in general I like the way you use your arms and your gestures. And actually Chopin, he was really mostly a teacher. Once he came to Paris and he was teaching, and he performed for about a year, and then he realized that he really didn't like performing. And so he became a teacher, and a lot of the things he said to the students, they documented them, and there's actually a book called Chopin, Pianist and Teacher, and you can get really interesting ideas regarding what he wanted his students to do. One of the things that you do that he always told the students to do is lift at the end of phrases. And that's really important. I think you do that well. I think one other thing that he said to his students was, you need to play with finger legato as much as possible until you add the pedal. So I think sometimes you let go a little too early at the ends of phrases. And what that does, it changes the tone. If you don't stay on the bottom of a note all the way through to the end, sometimes you get kind of a fuzzier tone and a fuzzier sound. Every note that we play, for example, if I play a C, we have what I call the harmonic series. You've got a C, and then you have actually these notes above that are actually resonating at the same time. Do you know that? Have you heard about that? Okay, Chopin really knew this well. But if you play without a pedal, you're going to get more of that fundamental, that actual middle C tone, and less of this. But when you put the pedal down, if I have the pedal down already, do you hear that extra resonance that you have? So I'd like to experiment with having less of that in general. Because sometimes when you play in the bass, you get some really, really beautiful tone. And I want to make sure that your right hand does that as well. Another thing is not looking at the piece. What is the tempo marking? 60. It's allegro assai or quasi presto. So it's kind of in between. When presto is probably the fastest tempo marking. I think in general it can be. Sometimes I feel you stop to smell the flowers too much in this. So you have to pick places where I think fewer places to really take some time, and then others can be much more uniform and you can push through. But talking about tone, I'd like you to just play the first line in your right hand without pedal, and I'd like you to play somewhat unmusically. All I want you to do is play the same level of tone through the entire measure. Okay, good. Now, was every note the same dynamic level? Can you make it the same? Good. One suggestion: go to the bottom of the key every time. Good. Now you're shaping just a little bit, which is totally fine. But now I'd like you to do that in 3 different dynamic levels. I would say that's probably like a mezzo forte. Can you do it in a piano? Good. Now the beginning is a little tricky, right? Because you have a turn. I would make sure overcurve your fingers a little bit. And don't just completely rely on the fingers. I would actually rely on more of a rotational motion. So, have we talked about that before? Try it. Right, so it's a little bit slower than the fingers, it's more reliable, I think.
Yeah.
So now let's make it soft. Good, good. Now, can you connect the notes a little bit more? Make sure you connect the bottoms of the keys as you can. That's good, very good. Now do it in forte. Same tone for every note. Good, good. Now can you start softer and then start piano and go to forte? Good, good, good. Now let's do it with both hands. I'd like you to add the pedal and play the first two measures. Now, one thing about the pedal, sometimes you're catching your bass note, sometimes you're not. So you need to make sure you really have that solid. Okay, good. Now, you have a crescendo and it's in the middle of both hands. However, I think the A flat chord can be more than the next chord. So if you can, so there's more of a metric feel to it. Let's think of it this way. Your left hand kind of dominates the first half of the measure, and then the right hand dominates the second half. Good, good. And then the next phrase, can you really make that a longer phrase? Can you? Okay, good, good. Now, if I was to kind of give you a percentage of how many notes I felt that you got in a really even tone, I would say about 85 to 90%. Sometimes, depending on the interval, you know, the piano is interesting. We never really think about it, but black keys are higher than white keys, right? It's obvious. But sometimes when we're playing a passage and it's, you know, you're going all over the place, all over the topography of the keyboard, you need to make sure your white keys are going down to the bottom. Sometimes you're on the surface, and that's where we have tonal gaps. So can you play that third measure? Good, good, good. Now, can you do it even slower? Sometimes I don't hear your left hand note. So, you know, it's really nice that. Play a little bit slower with that. Play this. Imagine that's the only thing that you can play, you know, so really make it sing. Just the bass. Measure 3. Good, good. Now, can you really clearly pedal it so there's no mess? My students, I call it tenuto pedaling. Do you know what the word tenuto means?
Yeah, like a longer, like fuller note.
Yeah, it's like in Italian it means to hold. So just really make sure that you establish your arm at the bottom of the key, and then there has to be a moment where you're actually off the pedal.
Yeah.
You're still touching the pedal, but it's all the way up. And then what I was saying about the fundamental tone, that will get you back to that fundamental tone. To hear it clear, there's kind of an elision between the two notes, then you clear it when you lift your foot. Let's try it. playing with your foot, you need to make sure sometimes you actually, you're changing the pedal too early. You're changing it right on the beat. So if I do that, this is the way it's going to sound. Do you hear the difference between it? You know. So try to get that clarity now when you play the entire. When you play the entire left hand part. Sorry. Sorry, my son's going to the prom, so. All right.
So it's
Yeah, good. Now, can you do it slow enough where everything is crystal clear? One more time. Good. Now add your right hand. Play both. Good. Now you make sure every beat you really establish a clear tone by holding long enough on each of those beats. Yeah, good. It's better. It's better. You still can do it more. So I actually have, let's do something. Let's change the rhythm so it's like this. So every time you stop, you're hearing that two-voice counterpoint. But make sure you're not too loud now. Another thing that's, it's really, I know you can handle it. I'm going to say a lot, but balance-wise, you always want the right hand to be a little bit more. So think about that the relationship and sound between those both hands. Right hand is always a little bit more than the left. But that wasn't so clear. Like a pure fifth. You can hear a pure fifth. But lift the pedal. So use your ear. If you hear anything muddy, and you stay on the bottom of the key and lift the pedal until it clears. Okay, this is difficult. Now, just go back to playing straight triplets. That might make it a little bit easier. Let's. Slow down your foot a little bit. So think of it this way. Play up, down, up, down, up, down. Establish yourself at the bottom first before you change the pedal. Okay, this is, okay. Just one element. When you lift your foot, you have to lift it long enough. You have to stay up long enough for the sound to clear.
Yeah.
Your foot's going back down. So your pedal changes. When you change the pedal, if you don't wait till the sound to clear, it's always going to be muddy.
Yeah.
Let's try it again. But you have to hold the bass note at the same time. C's. Clear? Yeah? Yes. Okay, so this is probably something, I know I'm giving you a lot to think about, but just practice with your left hand. You can really just practice. Let's go to the slow theme. Or actually, before the slow theme, can you try from maybe here? Okay, good. Now, I have a question for you. Do you practice scales and arpeggios and things like that on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I would just say, I think you have the technique to be able to do what Chopin says here, which is a cello rondo.
Yeah.
And then he has sforzando, and you know what that means.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, in order to sforzando, you're already doing it before he wrote it.
Yeah.
So, I know it's a little tricky, right, because it's chromatic, but if you can push through, so you have... then you can slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, I like your sound here. Your sound is really great. But can you feel a little more metrically? So, feel 2 to the measure. So it's like 1, 2, 1. So. Make sure that's an A natural there. And he does something really, it's not nice, and it's hard to do, right? The double stemming in the right hand. So we have. Second finger much softer there. Just do the right hand from where that starts. Yeah, that's nice. Now add your left hand, same tempo. Great. Now can you do this? Play it more like an etude. Good. And now, the next phrase I feel you can play a little bit more in tempo, and then you can slow down for that section. So. Accents there, but to help a little more with the rhythm, you can kind of poke on the beats. You can kind of. Okay, good. Now, I'm going to mention pedaling again, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but you have that D natural. You have to make sure that's clear. Composer, he would have just done something like this, maybe. That's not really interesting, right? It's all A flat major, but that D natural is so important, I think. So you have, it kind of throws you off a little bit, right? And we have G natural and the right hand at the same time. Start to practice slowly, just listening to it, making sure that your foot, again, it catches. Just play those 3 notes for me. Can you play your left hand softer? Yeah, that's the balance. So, and now catch it and pedal. If I asked you who composed this piece and I played this chord, you wouldn't guess Chopin, probably, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, but it's important, So, really listen to it clearly. Play it slow enough where you can do that. Good. That's so much clearer. Now, the next thing is make sure don't overplay, because you have an accent on the E flat.
Yeah.
Plus, you have to play it softly. So I think instead of playing too much on the first 3 notes, then you don't have to accent too much because it's only piano. So play this pianissimo if you can. Good. Now, just one little thing in the right hand. I think your G, your thumb is a little bit lazy. It comes late. Do you realize that? So make sure. So that's why I think it's good to poke with your arm because that coordinates everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel you rely on your fingers too much to play. Of course, we have to play with our fingers. However, I think if you can kind of organize everything as one unit. So sometimes we can play with our forearm, sometimes we can play with our upper arm, and our fingers are just, kind of an extension from the shoulder. Sometimes we can even play from the torso and not move that much. But in this case, I think so I hear more of it. Can you really hear that? The top of your left hand roll, the C natural and the A flat together, it's a really nice interval. It's a sixth. It should sound like a bell. If you can make it, especially on this piano. It's a very nice piano. So try to get a really nice bell-like sound. Now catch it in pedal. Right, and then hold the pedal down and continue. Good. Now can you make sure that's very clear. Good. The next thing I want to talk a little bit about with this theme is just the way you shape it. I like what you do. In the first phrase, what's interesting about it, we know we're in F minor, right?
Yeah.
However, very quickly, we go to, right?
Yeah.
And does it end there? No, right? And then, shape a little bit more towards that A flat chord. has a certain inflection. And I think you naturally have you know, an ability to identify how to shape something. Make sure when you have that, you want to come away from it. Make sure that the bass is, the awkward thing about this, again, is the left hand. It's jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
You're not quite catching your basses, so make sure that you always hear them.
Yeah, so.
Good. And another thing about the bass is that he puts the chord, he puts the bass on the syncopation,
Yeah.
right? So it's not like he could have done this. It would sound kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
But so you need to really make sure that chord is caught clearly too. Creates another melody in your thumb. Can you try it from maybe 39 there?
So,
Yeah, good. And then, have you played any Chopin nocturnes before?
half of one.
Half of one?
Didn't work out.
So, he does a lot of things with a lot of, with the, you know, kind of the theater, you know, I really like the way you play those. Just one last thing, make sure your trills are much more rhythmic. Everything should fit into the left-hand rhythm if you can. You know, you can really, again, think of your arms coordinating that. Can you just do that? Okay, good. Now, the rolls, you look a little tense in your left hand. I'm just, the last thing I'm going to do is talk about those. Can you make sure that when you do start a roll, you're actually over too far with your forearm. You're on your thumb side. But if you start with a little, you know, a little bit more like this, and just move more like this. If you start here, you're going to always be trying to stretch the interval. So luckily you've got that A in the middle. It's kind of a pivot note that you can use. Yeah. I mean, regardless of what you can stretch, I think if you really think about, when you have a roll, think about the notes that are on the inside and how you can use them to get your forearm to another place. Then it can always be even a 5-4-1 roll. The second one is really awkward, but just a very smooth motion if you can. Try the second one. Right. So your 4 shouldn't collapse. You've got to use that. It's almost like, you know what pole vaulting is?
Yeah.
You have to use that 4 to get to the octave. Right. Right. So when you do practice them, hopefully you play them slowly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would practice, you know, very relaxed. No tension in my arm. You know, make sure that you know, to be comfortable with it. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to stop there, but hopefully I've given you some ideas to think about. All right, thank you. have to make a quick phone call.
Go ahead, yeah, take your
Sorry,
time.
1 second.
We'll call it an intermission.
Yes.
You can like,
Just making sure my son has money for tonight. So.
is it junior or senior prom?
Sorry? Junior.
Junior or senior?
Junior.
Junior. That one's more fun sometimes anyway.
Huh?
That one's more fun sometimes anyway.
Oh, maybe. Okay, great. Symphonia? Symphonia? Good. Great. shop for ornaments with through recordings that you listen to, or did you kind of were you advised by your teacher, or because I like them?
I was more advised by my teacher.
Okay, okay. Well, I like your ornament stuff. I would say your dynamic contrast is very good. I would you know, when we play Bach, we always have to keep in mind the instrument that it was intended for. We can never come close to that sound on a piano.
Yeah.
And just the sheer fact that the harpsichord didn't have dynamics, it really causes a big problem for people trying to play Bach on a modern piano. And but I think I'm one of the people that is less of a purist, and I think shaping is important. I like your use of pedal. I think we have to use pedal to connect things sometimes. One thing is when you play forte, I feel you get a little on the edgy side. And I think that has to do with being maybe a little bit tense in your forearm. But for example, I think I noticed it more on the second page than the first page. But you know, even I think going back to talking about tone, I think you have to think about every note that you play. I'll use terminology from electronic music. Do you know what an ADSR is? It's an acronym for attack, decay, sustain, release. Every note that you play, the attack is the hammer hitting the string, the decay is after it hits the string, and then it starts to sustain, and then the release is how you release. Most pianists, I feel, listen to the attack and not as much, definitely not as much the release. But sustain, I think, is really important in Bach. I feel sometimes when the attack is too much, if I play a scale, I'll play something from here, you know. Would you say that's a little too much?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a threshold there. If you play too fast into the key, you're going to over resonate the string and you'll get feedback. So, and that's, if I play like this, I'm exaggerating just so you hear it. Every piano is different, but you have to be aware. I think if you're a little bit more aware of that threshold, I think it's going to make you're playing a lot more legato also. And your sustain, actually, when you play with less attack, your sustain is actually bigger and it's more resonant. Because if you over vibrate the string, it sort of throws it off and it doesn't vibrate naturally. This is an interesting symphonia. It starts off arpeggiated and then you go into scalar things. I like what you're doing with the arpeggios, but I wouldn't make too much of them. I think scales, I really think scales are much more interesting than arpeggios. Why would I say that?
There's obviously the notes.
There's more notes, but it's more like singing, you know. How many singers, like, you know, melodies aren't really arpeggiated that much, right? Sometimes we'll have jumps and leaps, but I think, plus we have non-chord tones. Do you know what a non-chord tone is? So if we're in C minor, if I play a scale, C is in the chord, that's not in the chord. Do you know what I mean? So I think it gives you much more interesting lines, you know, when you have stepwise motion. So and I think that's kind of the shape that you did, right? You're kind of doing each measure, kind of a hairpin for each of them. Can you play the first two measures? Good. That was very nice. The fourth beat of the first measure, can you do much more of a diminuendo there? So we've got in this top voice, we've got an octave leap, a descending leap. So, and then we have somewhere to go. We can start softer here. I think just because your 16ths are already soft enough, I don't think you need to play too much on the here. I would again think about that. You don't want it to sound. Also think about that. You have these little slurs in your music here, but think of those as gestures. I know Glenn Gould does like triplets, right? Or something like that. So you want to stop the trill before the pickup? Is that? I feel like you're kind of cheating yourself on the trills a little bit. Can you have a little bit more? So you have, and then follow the shape with the trill. Slower. Don't feel like you have to play a really fast, you know. I think again at the end of the trill you're kind of what I would call jamming a little bit. So if you can just slow it down a little bit at the end, and I think it's going to be easier to finish the trill. Now, have you ever counted how many revolutions of the trill you have? No? It's good. When you practice, we always, when we practice, we want consistency. You know, then when we perform, it's always going to happen. So, I would, you know, it sounds like you're playing. So, count the bottom note. So, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sure that, yeah, just try that. If you want to play it a little bit slower, that's fine too. So, are you starting on the upper or the main note? No. So, are you going, are you starting on the main? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 5 notes. Good. First one was good. Second one, you had one less. So let's do it together. Ready? And. One more time. So I would say when you practice that trill, 80% should be that tempo, and then 20% trident tempo. Okay. You know, just so you really, it's always there. Can you go on from there? Both hands. The sound that you got in measure 5, you know, on those, when I told you to relax, that was such a great sound. Can you get the same sound in your 16ths in this measure? So, you know, so don't overshake, just stay relaxed. That was so much better. Now, the a little awkward place where the mordant is, right? So relaxed and just be very, very relaxed. Yeah, good. But make sure you stay on that E flat. Okay, maybe go back to where it's comfortable for you to start in the phrase. Question there. Are you doing a hairpin to the F sharp there? This is what I heard. Sorry. You doing two hairpins there? Or are you aiming for that downbeat? Okay, good. So it sounded like there were two different shapes there, but can you make it one long line then? Good. Now try it one more time and try and maybe start at the beginning of the measure so you're a little more comfortable and try to stay relaxed. And I think you can pace yourself a little bit more dynamically, meaning you can start softer so you don't have to play too loud at the end of the phrase. Good. Now, the balance between the hands, it seems a little heavy in your left hand. Do you hear that at all? Yeah, try to make sure that they're a little more equally balanced. So, it's funny because two-part counterpoint can be so tricky in Bach, but I think just try to aim for listening to the interval. So you have a third, 10th, 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 10th. We always talk about Bach being independent lines that you have to listen to, but I think with two voices, you have to listen to the interval. Make sure that it's the same proportion between right and left hand. Can you just do it right there? Separate there. Okay, good. Maybe don't do it as obvious if you do. And don't accent too much on the D's, just separate. You do that from right there, that measure? Yeah. That's really a very nice sound there. That was a little different than the first time you played it. Do you realize your sound's changed a little bit? Yeah, it's good. It's good. So one thing that you have to be careful of right here. great here. I would just say maybe on the repeated notes you can connect those with pedal a little bit. It's a little on the dry side for me. So you have, just all you have to do is put it down and take it off on the second one. So. Just to create more of a line, more of a legato line. Maybe again, I'd like you to play about phrase 24 right before the 16th start, and see if you can again relax more into things. It got a little bright in your forte there. So you have. So stay on the bottom of the key, but stay there with really, really relaxed forearms if you can. That A flat before you have the 16ths, how long is that note? Where does that need to hold to?
1 beat.
Yeah. So you let go of it sometimes when you have that motive. So rather than just kind of notice it and change it, maybe really try and fit everything else into that A flat. So. Same thing. Oh, then he doesn't do it there. But earlier in the piece with the same thing, just make sure your quarter you're really listening to it. Same thing in this last crescendo that you're making. So you have. I think you need to actually get more sound there and really listen to it. I felt like you started to do diminuendo already, like a little early in the measure. If you can kind of move it a little more right in the measure. And then you're playing that softly, right? It's kind of, a lot of Bach pieces. It's funny. There's a really famous piece called the Chaconne, where it's a violin piece. But do you know what a Picardy third is? Yeah. And it ends. The big debate is whether to end major or minor. This is kind of funny. We call that a cross relation. It's got. Sometimes we hear that as C minor in this piece, but in any case, so make sure that you have. Maybe start this a little bit less. Just slow your fingers straight in the middle of the measure. But when you practice this, make sure that you have a clear path all the way through those 16ths, that you're comfortable. Just kind of, you know, this is awkward, right? Because I'm not sure what your fingering is. It's not, unfortunately, it's not a scale. You have some, it's a little bit different, right? But that should all feel like one idea, you know, one phrase. Can you try that one more time from maybe... ask you to play this one more time. You're not doing the ornament, right? You are? Okay. This is such a great chord, and we hear this in Bach a lot in his choral works. Be natural. You know, so you have... that's very connected and legato. Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah. All right, how much time do we have?
You're good if you want
We're
to
good?
finish
Okay.
now, or if you have any finishing thoughts.
Okay, yeah.
No rush.
Yeah, what was I going to say? I'd like you to play that one line again. Can you go back to 14, please? And just think about staying relaxed and thinking about the triplets, that triplet eighth note gesture that you're going to use. Pedaling the repeated notes, maybe even in the opening phrase, you know, when you have, you know, you could sneak it in without people accusing you of being romantic because you're pedaling, you know. I think it sounds a little bit, you know, even in the opening, you know. Do you know what I mean? I think you can get away without pedal, but you have to really mind your gap. Do you know what I mean? So if you play the third note much softer, then you can get away with it, and it sounds a little more connected. Does that make sense? Yeah. But with pedal, it sounds pretty similar. But I would do one or the other. Actually, can you just go to the very opening? And don't use pedal, but don't really make it. Good. And then hold on to that third note just a little longer, too. This type of treatment is probably, do you like it? Yeah. I think it's appropriate for slower Bach pieces. You know, because it's very easy for us when we slur something to always think that the note that we release is kind of the same. It's uniform regardless of. But think about the tempo. If I was playing this as probably a da gamba, which is like the cello and Baroque period, you know, I would play. legato, there were like several gradations in between of the length of the note. So if I play, on the harpsichord, since we don't have dynamic control, we have to have different ways of showing that. But during Bach's time, there were so many different levels of articulation when you separate. So I would say just try and cultivate something where you're releasing a little bit later. But I think that makes a big difference. But I think if you remember anything from this masterclass, just staying relaxed and not forcing the sound, because that makes a huge difference. It really does. So, okay, thank you. So we have notes are great. great sonata.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you didn't play the other C major. I was going to say, I like your delicacy. I think you like, it sounds like you like Mozart.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Because I think Mozart is probably one of the most difficult composers because it's so exposed and you have to control every element and it has to be. So I think you're really, for the most part, I think you have a really nice touch and really nice control. One of the difficult things though about the textures, the left hand has to be rock steady in this. And that's one of the things that it's not so much fun, but virtuoso piano technique is not only playing fast and loud, it is actually just controlling rhythm. And I think that's why Mozart is so hard, and it's really, that's why I think they, in piano competitions, they always have a classical element, just so they can see whether you can control, you can play something, you can play a tremolo evenly, or you can play an accompanimental figure evenly, and really, really have complete control over all the rhythmic elements and musical motives in a piece. And I think the opening, I really like this first movement because it's just so really full of energy, it's positive. The one inconspicuous element though in the very beginning that is that left hand, Imagine you're a string player, that's all you have, you have that, you really enjoy that F because that's the only thing that's different, right? So, make sure that you kind of shake to that F, just try that left hand. So. Yeah, that's great. That's great. That was. So I think that's another thing. One thing I think you can work on is the very next measure. It's a tremolo. You're going back and forth, but you have a double note and then a single note. So that tends to get heavy. I think that in the closing theme you have that, a nice position, but you need to make sure that doesn't overpower the texture. But that right hand needs to be really out in front. Can you try from the opening? Okay, good. Now, you have two Gs. Which one's more important?
The second?
The second. Good. Now, so don't overplay the first. So you have room to go. I would actually play it almost piano. So you hear that situation. Now, this is another. Then you have, which one is more important? I would do the opposite then. I would actually, and then, it's up to you, but make it clear one or the other, because I think you're sort of in no man's land in between the shade. But,
From the beginning or?
yeah, from the Good. Be careful though, it doesn't sound like, you don't want an ugly sound. I think if you coordinate it with the arm, it will give you a little fuller sound without being harsh. forte if you can. And okay, good. Now, just inflection-wise, make sure that appoggiatura, that little small note, that grace note, gets the inflection. And then that's our arrival right there, and then I think you can come away from that. That's good. Why don't you just maybe start the beginning of the measure. Right, maybe just the right hand. So good. I like the way you're using your arm through, but maybe you're overdoing that motion because you're getting out of you're getting out of the you're not able to come back to your A because you're coming out too far. So just a little motion like that. It's really basically it's these 4, 3, 2, 1, right? It's just you can block it and play like that. I would just practice getting to your 4 really confidently and comfortably. Right, good. Now, good. No thanks. Yeah. Let's make that a moment there. Are you planning to do it soft in general? Is that your?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So just make sure everything after that is even softer. Once you get to the triplets in your left hand, I think you can do something we call finger pedaling. Have you ever heard that before?
Right from the first note.
That bass. You just want to make it a little more linear. The other thing I would say would be use the pedal, but if you don't want to use the pedal, you need a little bit more tone in the bass. Because you have parallel tenths, right? So it's really nice for that melody in the right hand. Make sure that you're playing that piano, right? Or yeah. Just relax. That's good. Good. One little thing there. Make sure you hold that G all the way through the cadence. So you should have 4 notes held by the end of that measure. Just so it's more sustained. I see. Okay, if you're going to separate before the chord, just hold the G a little, just a second later. Yeah, so I like the way you're following through, but just stay on the bottom of the key. So you'll satisfy the urge to release and follow through. Just try it with the right hand. So you practice following through, but staying on the bottom and sustaining the note. Right, yeah. And you got in the right place here for the chord. So, are you playing 3 on that G?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I might have a copy. I had 2.
You have 2? Ah. Yeah, probably 3 would get you to the. Are you playing 2-5 on the chord?
Playing, yeah, 2-5.
2-5, yeah. I think 3 you're right there for the 2-5 then. 2, then you have to. That might be the issue. I think the fingering might be the issue there. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Let's go on from there.
Okay.
Good. Now, sometimes in this passage when you have these tremolos, I don't hear all the notes.
Yeah.
So here, try to stay really close when you have them. Don't get too far away from the keyboard. You are finger pedaling that. Do you realize that you're doing that? That's great. We did that G a little bit longer, so that was good. Can you do it from right here? So he's going back and forth between forte and piano, and I think you can almost think of this orchestrally. Maybe, who knows, maybe winds and brass, and then this is a flute. I think you can be stronger there. Make sure the last note of that forte is held just a little bit longer. Dominant over the left-hand sound. Good. Now this development's the same thing as the opening. I felt it was a little uneven in your left hand. The really boring part has to be controlled, unfortunately. 2 measures, or were you doing a hairpin, or what was your
Crescendo over 2 measures.
over 2 measures? So start a lot softer. And I think because of the syncopation, it can get too loud too soon. Because you want this to be, 3 or 4 measures after that, you want it to be more. So if we think about the chord, it's a diminished 7th chord, it's pathos there, so. It's trills in general. I think in Mozart, if you're playing faster in a faster movement, I think you can help yourself. Trills are very awkward sometimes, you'll agree, right? Just because especially when you have a Nachschlag, Mozart likes putting that tail at the end of the trill. I would use a little, like a half pedal. Do you know what a half pedal is?
Yeah.
Yeah, just going down a little bit and then bringing it up at the end. So that really saves you, having a little bit of pedal saves you the embarrassment of not articulating something, because it's only 2 notes, so if one of them doesn't sound, you're kind of covered, but also it does help you get to the Nachschlag. Be careful though, because I felt your piano, you had nowhere to go when you're a piano. I mean, you need to make sure maybe that G can sing a little more, and then you have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
I like your articulation there. Make sure that you're not going in and out of more left hand or more right hand through it. Really, they have to kind of work as a team. Maybe start a little earlier where you're comfortable. And then make sure that you go down to the bottom, the same depth in the key with both hands. Regardless if you're playing white or black keys or whatever finger you're playing, just make sure you're always bouncing off the bottom. Sounding too harsh at the end. You do that really, really well. Can you have a little bit more tone up there? Especially the last 3. A little more focused if you can. imagine, I think the difficult thing about playing the piano is our hands are not symmetrical, and the fingers are not the same length. We always have to think about that. Can you curve your fingers and make sure that you're playing on a surface area? Have the idea, even though it's not entirely mathematically possible, that you're playing on the same surface area of each finger when you play that passage. Especially when you're playing 4-1, obviously the thumb you have to play almost on your nail, right? And that's the difficulty about playing the thumb. But just play a little bit slower, but imagine that you see a little circle where the contact is with the key surface. Yes. Good. I'm hearing everything evenly now. Can you play a little bit faster? Good. Now. Good. Now, another idea that I haven't mentioned yet is you can actually inflect that F in the middle of the passage to give it more rhythm, because the F is on the beat. Good, but inflect it really short and light. Yeah, that's really good. Both hands. Just one thing about that, now that I'm thinking about it, is the coordination here, you're moving too much for the syncopation. It's obvious that you feel that, but can you stay closer there? So. So you can voice the top. I'm almost playing on my fingernail. It's just really, I think in general, they always talk about famous pianists, like, you know who Rubinstein was? No? Okay. Well, anyway, he was an old generation pianist, but he was notorious. They always used to say that his fingertips were like little pillows. Because his fingers were long, but almost like, it was like a frog or whatever, a chameleon. You know how they have like a fingertip that's a little bit larger. But I think in general, you can think more about, how you play. Sometimes we play right close to the nail. You're going to get a more focused sound that way. But sometimes I feel you're a little bit too much like that. I think you can be a little bit more vertical. Okay. Let's try that. You're doing a wrist up. Can you keep it, actually, if you do move, you can move in, but don't move your wrist up. Right. Because what's happening is if you move your wrist up, again, your thumb has to play, right? Are you playing 1, 3, 2? Yeah, you've got to get back down lower because your thumb has to play. Right. Good. Now. overpower your right. So short. Even though you have to jump down here, you know. Good, good. Can that be a little longer? Good. Next where I might use pedal. Doesn't it feel a little uncomfortable without pedal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here, maybe put the pedal down and then take it off on the C major chord. So it's like, right, it just gets you, the pedal will help you get to those thirds, which are a little uncomfortable, right? Just practice. The G is pedaled to the thirds. Right. Once you get comfortable with that, then go back to the beginning of that measure. You can do it slower if you want. Yeah. So that'll be something you can practice, but I think that would solve the problem of being really, uncomfortable there.
Yeah.
And then one last thing. Can you do that theme? What is the character here if you were to give an adjective to describe it?
I'd say like hoppy.
Hoppy? It's very light. It's almost like tiptoeing, right?
Yeah.
I think also it's a little bit shy, right? Then he goes to eighth notes. So I think you can kind of play, delay that. And then finally, he's more confident there. But, almost like you don't want, it just really playing down, playing to yourself there. And then the same thing, maybe if you're going to play forte at the beginning of the measure, keep it all the way through, and then keep the energy going, so you have... Good. And that was better than you played the first time. That's very good. Here, keep that forte, and then you go back to piano. I mean, I think it's really interesting. All of these, in my score, there's a lot of, all the dynamics are actually in parentheses because they're editorial, forte, piano. But there is a lot of contrast, and some people say that it's all because of Mozart's operatic writing. Like everything was an operatic character, and you have to really kind of, it's almost like you have to be, change personalities. Every new, melody that you have is something different. So I would really, if you are going to observe those dynamic changes, really kind of overdo them.
Okay.
But the danger is, though, in forte, not to overplay your left hand when you do. So I think that's all I'm going to say, but hopefully you found some things useful. Okay, good? Yeah.